The music was booming, multicolored lights flickered across the walls of the hall, and it seemed like everyone around was happy. Girls in glittering dresses spun and danced, boys laughed in clustered groups. The photographer clicked away, capturing the final moments of carefree youth. Emma stood by the window, holding a glass of lemonade that had long gone warm. Her gaze wasn't fixed on the stage or her friends. It was locked on one figure in the crowd. He was standing by a column, talking with classmates, smiling. The old Alex, tall, confident, a little lazy in his movements, with that same look that used to take her breath away. Now, everything was different. She tightened her grip on the plastic cup until her knuckles turned white. Breathing became hard. One of their classmates called her over for a photo. She nodded but didn't move. How could she pretend everything was fine when something inside her felt like it had died? A day before graduation, Emma had seen something that could never be unseen. Alex noticed her, too. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. She'd been avoiding him lately, and now she wasn't even hiding her distance. He started walking toward her. Emma turned abruptly and headed to the other side of the hall. Her heart was pounding. "Don't come near me. Don't make me talk. Don't come closer." "Emma!" His voice called out behind her. His voice. She stopped. Slowly, almost with a revulsion, she turned. "Hi," she said coldly. Alex frowned. "Can we talk? I've been meaning to for a week now." He hesitated for a second. "You're angry, but I don't understand why. You won't even look at me." Emma looked into his eyes. Clear, light gray. The ones that used to seem the most honest in the world. "And you really don't know?" He faltered. "If I did something, just tell me." "You did plenty. Or didn't. That's the problem." She didn't answer. At that moment, a slow dance began. Couples started to gather on the floor. The hall dimmed into a soft, cozy twilight. Alex took a step closer. "Will you dance with me?" Emma stepped back. "No," he exhaled, tense. "Then just tell me what's going on. This isn't like you. You don't just disappear without a word." "What if I found out something?" "Something that makes it impossible to stay near you," she asked quietly, not looking at him. He froze. "What did you find out?" Her heart clenched. Say it? Right now? In the crowd? Before a dance? No. She wouldn't let him twist it, wouldn't let him write it off as a mistake from the past. It wasn't time yet. "I need to be alone," she said. "Emma, don't come near me, please." And she walked away. Through the crowd without looking back, as if wading through water, slowly with effort, her steps heavy and wet. The music kept playing. Laughter, photos, fireworks. But something inside her had snapped. She stepped outside. The night was warm. Fireworks were going off somewhere in the distance. Gravel crunched under her heels. She sat on a bench at the park entrance and covered her face with her hands. This was the end. The end of everything she believed in. Alex was no longer her Alex. A day before graduation, Emma is standing in Sophie's attic. Under a dusty cloth, an old box. She unwraps it, finds old letters neatly bundled. The paper has yellowed. "Alex, I know you saw him raise his hand at me. Why didn't you say anything? Why did you let them take my daughter? I was dying when they drove away with her. I begged you to help. You were the oldest. You were there. You could have..." Signed, Laura. Emma lowers the letter. The world seems to shatter around her. Alex knew. He had known all his life. Emma first saw Alex when she was 10. He came to pick up Sophie from school, tall in a gray jacket, his light hair tousled in the wind. There was something in his smile that made Emma want to be older, or at least learn how not to blush when he looked her way. Since then, he was always around, bringing Sophie forgotten notebooks, picking her up from practice, sitting at the kitchen table with coffee when Emma stayed over. And always, with that half smile, that lazy gaze, like he knew everything but would never tell. Emma never spoke of her feelings. How could she? He was her best friend's older brother. He was part of their shared world, and any confession could destroy everything. Sophie was Emma's opposite, loud, confident, charismatic. People often said they were a strange pair, one shadow, the other sunlight. But that's what tied them together. Sophie pulled Emma forward, and Emma kept Sophie from going off the rails. They knew almost everything about each other. Almost. As graduation neared, things began to shift, not sharply, but subtly. Sophie grew irritable, withdrawn. She avoided talking about her family, gave short, clipped answers. One time she even said, "I don't think my mom loves me." Or, "I don't know. Maybe she's not even my mom." "What?" Emma laughed. "Are you crazy?" "Forget it," Sophie waved it off. "Just weird thoughts. Sometimes I feel like I wasn't even born here." Emma chalked it up to stress, teen emotions, end of school anxiety. But deep down, something felt off, like a dark streak across a familiar, cozy painting. That night, a week before graduation, Emma came over to Sophie's for a sleepover, to study. Sophie's parents were out of town. They spent the evening with laptops, laughing, reminiscing about skipping biology together. Close to midnight, Emma heard a strange sound like someone crying. Very quiet, muffled, but definitely not the TV or street. She stepped out barefoot, trying not to make noise, walked down the hallway, stopped by the guest room door, the one that was off limits. Sophie once said, "It's just storage, a mess. Better not go in. Mom freaks out." Now sobbing was coming from behind it. Emma froze. Her whole body tensed. Could have been her imagination. Could have been Sophie, but she was asleep. Or pretending to be. A few seconds later, the sound stopped. Emma went back to the room, lay down, but couldn't sleep for a long time. The next day, she tried to ask gently, "Do you have, like, other relatives living with you?" Sophie grimaced. "What are you talking about?" "Just, yesterday it felt like someone was—" She hesitated. "Never mind." Sophie stared at her. "Emma, do you sneak around the house while I'm asleep?" "No," Emma flushed. "I just heard something weird." "A sound? It's an old house. Tons of weird sounds." "It sounded like—" She trailed off. "Forget it." "Better forget it," Sophie said quickly, and the topic shift was so abrupt it gave Emma chills. That evening, she texted Alex, "Hey, is everything okay at your house?" The reply came quickly, "Why?" "I don't know. Sophie's been acting strange, and the house—" Then silence. A few minutes. Finally, a reply. "Emma, stay out of it. It's not your business." Just one sentence, but it made Emma's fingers tremble. He had never spoken to her like that. Never shut her out, never pushed her away. He knew something, and didn't want her to find out. Emma didn't yet understand exactly what this family was hiding, but she felt it. She was already standing at the edge, and if she took one step forward, there would be no turning back. Sophie's house stood at the end of the street, a two-story building with a peeling fence and attic windows they used to wave from as kids. When her parents went away on a short business trip, Sophie suggested Emma stay over again, like old times. But Emma declined. She felt uneasy. Still, on Wednesday evening she came by, under the pretense of picking up some forgotten textbooks. Sophie was in the shower. The house was empty, quiet, too quiet. Emma walked into the living room and froze. The attic door, usually locked, was slightly open. She stepped closer, reached for the light switch. The creak of the stairs echoed in her ears like thunder. Every step was a struggle. The air smelled of dust, old wood, and something foreign. The attic was a mess, boxes, bags, old toys, everything in disarray. Emma was about to turn back when her gaze landed on a box clearly labeled, "Laura, personal, do not open." The name hit her like a blow to the chest. She didn't know who it was, but something inside her stirred. Her fingers lifted the lid on their own. Inside, letters, folded, tied neatly with twine. On top, photographs, a woman with dark eyes holding a little girl, about 3 years old. The girl looked exactly like Sophie had as a child. Emma crouched down, hands trembling, and unfolded the top letter. "Alex, you were the only one who knew. I begged you not to stay silent, but you stayed silent, and then he came. He hit me, then said I was dangerous, that I was unstable. All I wanted was to take back my daughter, my Sophia. Now she calls another woman mom. You let this happen. I'm in the hospital. They say I've stabilized, but no one listens. They just keep injecting me. If you're reading this, find her. Tell her I existed, that I'm alive. Please, don't betray me again. Laura Emma set the letter aside. Her temples throbbed. She opened another. Same handwriting, less steady, more desperate. You were there that night. You saw him grab me. I wasn't crazy. I didn't attack. I defended myself. Why did you just stand there and say nothing? Another photo, the same woman, but this time with tired eyes and a weary face. On the back, 2009, our last day together. Cold rose in Emma's chest. She knew that year. It was the year Sophie had appeared at their school, seemingly out of nowhere. Her parents had said they'd moved from another city, that Sophie just didn't like to talk about the past. Now everything became clear. Too clear. Sophie wasn't their daughter. She was her daughter, Laura's, and Alex had known. He had witnessed that night, and he had done nothing. Emma stood, gasping. Her heart pounded so hard it rang in her ears. She grabbed a few letters and stuffed them into her bag. The rest she put back, her hands shaking. When she came back downstairs, Sophie was in the kitchen eating ice cream. You took forever, she said without looking up. I was looking for a notebook, Emma managed to say. Didn't find it. Maybe it's at your place? Maybe, Sophie smiled. Emma nodded as if nothing had happened, but inside, everything was falling apart. Later at home, Emma opened her laptop and began to search. Name, Laura Castro. The search brought up a result. An article from a local newspaper dated 2010. Resident of City Z declared legally incompetent after attempt to harm a child. The woman, suffering from mental illness, attacked her husband, claiming he had stolen her daughter. The photo showed the same Laura, slightly younger, eyes swollen. Emma read the article. Between the lines, a different truth shone through. Not the one written, the one buried. It wasn't an attempt at violence. It was a mother trying to save her child. Alex, he had known. First, he'd stayed silent. Then, he'd protected the lie. That night, Emma didn't sleep. She sat on the floor by her bed, letters in hand. She felt sick, not physically, but in her soul. Everything inside her rejected what she had read. But there was no undoing the truth now. At dawn, she typed a draft message. I know what you did. I know what you hid. Don't come near me. But she didn't send it. Not yet. Emma didn't go to school the next day. There was no point. Graduation was over, exams finished. All that was left was waiting for results and pretending life went on. But she had something else to do. She didn't answer Sophie's calls, didn't read her texts. They read, You were acting weird. Is everything okay? Are you mad? What happened? Em, I'm your friend. Just say something. Emma read and deleted. She couldn't lie, and telling the truth was even harder. This wasn't a conversation for texts. With Alex, silence. He didn't write, which was even more terrifying. On the third day, Emma left the house and went to the central library. There, in the archive, old newspaper clippings were stored, those yellowed pages where Laura's story might not be so whitewashed. She flipped through editions from 2010, found another article published a week after the first, Scandal in the Castro family. Court rules mother mentally unstable, child transferred to father. No photo of the girl, no name, no mention. Just phrases. Minor child, protection of father's interests, mother placed in secure facility. Emma closed her eyes. Everything added up. Sophie was that girl, Laura, the mother who lost everything. Alex was a witness. Maybe scared, maybe confused, but he knew, and he stayed silent. That evening, Emma finally reached out. She invited Sophie to the park, just to talk. They sat on a bench by the lake. Sophie looked at her with hurt and worry. You're not yourself, you've changed, she said instead of a greeting. I found out something, Emma said calmly, about you, about your mother. Sophie frowned. About who? About Laura. Several seconds of silence. Sophie didn't seem to understand at first. then suddenly stood up. You were snooping? You read the letters? Yes. Shit, Sophie paced, clutching her head. My mom said she was just some crazy woman. That she's gone, that Alex. Your brother knew the truth. He was there, Sophie, that night. He kept it quiet. Sophie sank back down like her legs gave out. No, she whispered. He wouldn't. He always protected us. Emma said nothing. Just let her sit in the realization. Didn't rush her. That same evening, as the sun set, Emma got a message from Alex. You know. Can I explain? She didn't reply. But the next morning, he was waiting at her building. I didn't know she wrote to you, he began. She must have found a way. You knew who Sophie was all along. And I didn't. You knew her mother was alive, that she was in a facility. Why did you stay silent? He looked down. I was 12 when it happened. I believed my dad. He said she was crazy, that she stabbed him. I saw the blood. I was scared. And later, it was easier to believe we were right, that everything was already decided. I tried. I wanted to tell Sophie eventually, but I didn't know how. And then you, he looked at her. In his eyes, pain, regret, real. But it was too late. You're not a monster, Alex, but you are a coward, Emma said quietly. He didn't argue. Please, don't shut me out, he asked. She just shook her head. I loved you, for real. But now when I look at you, I see blood on your hands, even if you didn't spill it. That evening, Emma opened her laptop and found the address of the clinic where, according to the documents, Laura was kept. She submitted an official request as a student researching social isolation. She didn't lie, but she didn't reveal everything either. Now she had a goal, to speak to Laura and decide stay silent or act. The clinic was out of town, among pines with a crumbling facade and metal bars on the windows. Inside it smelled sharp and sterile. With every step down the long corridor of whitewashed walls, cold crept deeper into Emma's chest. Name? The nurse on duty asked, peering over her glasses. Wilson? Emma faltered, then collected herself. I'd like to speak with a patient. Laura Castro. I was approved for a visit. 20 minutes later, she was escorted into a room with 2 chairs, a table, and a large window with thick frames. No glass partitions, just a space that felt almost homey. But the sterile stillness made it unbearably lonely. Laura entered quietly. Her shoulders were hunched, her hair pulled back into a loose ponytail, her face tired, but her eyes weren't empty as Emma had expected. They held caution, alertness, and a kind of animal fear. Emma, right? Her voice was hoarse, as if from long silence. Yes, I found your letters at Sophie's house. Laura froze. Then, strangely, she didn't even seem surprised. So they didn't burn them after all, she said, sitting down. They promised they'd destroy them, or hide them. I wanted to hear everything. From you. From the beginning. If you're able. The woman was quiet for a while. Then she raised her eyes. They called me crazy, Emma. Said I was dangerous. Said I made up everything that happened to us. But I remember every detail. And then she began to speak. She met Sophie's father when she was still a student. He seemed caring, dependable. Everything was fine until she got pregnant. Then he started to change. First he became stricter, then short-tempered, and finally violent. She tried to leave. Once, she almost made it, but he accused her of being unstable, used his connections to get a medical ruling. They took her daughter away. I screamed when they took her. Sophia clung to me, and they pulled her away. He said I had schizophrenia, that I was a threat. She fell silent, gripping the arms of the chair. You saw the letters. I wrote to Alex. He was just a boy, but he saw. He knew. And he said nothing. Back then I hoped he would do something one day. Come find me. Bring her. Tell her who she really was. Laura looked at Emma. So why did you come? Emma lowered her eyes. Because I love him, she said. Or loved. And because Sophie is my friend. I can't just pretend nothing happened. but I don't even know how to tell her. She's living in a dream. Her whole world will collapse. Laura exhaled. And you think mine didn't? I've lived here behind bars not because I'm sick, but because someone decided the truth was inconvenient. Emma nodded. Her lips trembled. She won't believe me. She'll say you're insane, that it's all a lie. Maybe, but at least you'll know you did the right thing. You gave her the choice. After the meeting, Emma stood at the bus stop for a long time, unable to lift her hand to wave one down. The air felt thick, sticky. The truth was in her hands, and it burned. If Emma told Sophie everything, her life would split in two. All her love for her family, exposed as a lie. All those years of friendship with Alex, revealed as betrayal. Sophie might even end up hating Emma, too. If she kept quiet, everything would stay the same. Everyone would be happy, except for one woman behind barred windows. The choice wasn't heroic like in books. It was heavy, ugly, without a clear right answer. But Emma had already taken a step forward. There was no way back. Sophie stayed quiet through most of the story. They sat on the same bench by the lake where, as kids, they used to launch paper boats. But now, between them, there was no water, only a chasm. Emma spoke plainly. No dramatic pauses, just facts. The letters, the articles, the photographs, the meeting with Laura. Sophie didn't interrupt. She only clutched the sleeves of her jacket tighter. Emma had never seen her like this, neither loud nor bold, but as if knocked out of her own body. So it was all a lie, she finally whispered. Not all of it, Emma said softly. Maybe they did love you. In their own way. Sophie gave a dry, hollow laugh. Love? They tore me away from my real mother, locked her up, and turned me into a picture-perfect lie? That's not love. Emma lowered her head. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. But you deserve to know. Sophie stood. And him? Him? Alex, where is he? I don't know. He tried to explain, but I think he doesn't even believe himself anymore. Sophie nodded. I'm going to her. To Laura? To my mother, Sophie said firmly. The one they took me from. I don't know if I'll believe her or forgive her, but I have to see her. They went together. The drive to the clinic felt like moving through cotton. Sophie stared out the window, silent. Emma could feel the old closeness between them crumbling. But she didn't blame Sophie. What had happened would change and destroy anyone. When Laura entered the visitation room, Sophie didn't recognize her at first. The woman looked different from the photos. Older, thinner, more frightened. But when their eyes met, something inside Sophie shifted. They stared at each other for a long minute. Silent. Then Laura spoke. You've grown up so beautiful. Sophie didn't reply. She just sat down and quietly asked, Why didn't you come for me? I did, but they never let me in. They said I was sick, that I was dangerous for you. And then I stayed here. Sophie choked on a sob. I thought I was happy my whole life, and it turns out it was a trap. You were a child. It's not your fault. And do you still want me to call you Mom? Laura didn't answer right away. I just want you to know I existed. I love you, and I always did, even when they didn't let me. Sophie covered her face with her hands. After the visit, they left in silence. In the car, Sophie said, I don't know how to live now. You don't have to decide that today, Emma replied. And you? I just did what I thought was right. Sophie nodded. Thank you for telling me. And I'm sorry if I disappear for a while. Disappear if you need to. Just don't betray yourself. Alex came a week later. He stood by the building entrance, like before, but this time his eyes held too much. Exhaustion, regret, silence. She left, he said. She won't answer. She has every right to, he nodded. I thought silence would protect us all. That if we didn't dig up the past, it would stay buried, but truth doesn't die easy, you know? Yeah, Emma said. It's like rust. Slow, but it eats through everything. They were quiet. Do you hate me? He finally asked. No, I just can't be near you anymore. You were part of my life. But now, you're part of a truth I can't forget. He wanted to say something else, but he didn't. He just nodded and walked away. 2 months passed. Sophie sent a letter, scrawled handwriting on the paper. I'm living with Aunt Laura in a village. We're getting to know each other slowly. I don't know how this will end, but for now, I'm here with her. Thank you for opening my eyes, and goodbye, Emma. For a while, or forever, I don't know. Emma read the letter several times, then folded it and placed it in a drawer. She stood by the window, watching people pass by on the street below. Some rushed, some laughed. Life went on. And with every minute, something inside her grew steadier. Not the old Emma, that girl was gone, but the new one. The one who had learned not to turn away from the truth